Department of Enterprise Services manages all the buildings and grounds on the Capitol campus here in Olympia. And I'd just like to invite people to join us this morning between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. It's really just a drop-in to have an informal look at the renovated Sunken Garden. And this project all started a couple years ago because we got some funding from a capital project to put in ADA access. So it's very exciting that everybody in the community now can have equal access to this historic garden. And the people that designed this garden are the Olmsted brothers. And you can see our beautiful historic buildings were designed by Wilder and White. And then the 50 acres that surround those historic buildings were designed by the Olmsted brothers. So those two things together, the historic buildings and the historic Olmsted planting, make this an historic district here on West Campus. So I'd just like to talk about some of the changes that you'll see if you come to the open house this morning. There used to be a lot of roses in this particular garden for many decades, but we have a lot of deer, believe it or not. Every day, actually, we have families of deer that come to the Capitol campus, and deer love to eat roses. So we put our thinking caps on, and now we're actually using a lot of different perennials that are resistant to deer eating them. And the other advantage of having a huge variety of perennials is we have a longer growing season, or a longer season of different blooms, different plants coming in and out of bloom throughout the season. And then if you come to the garden, you're likely to see some pollinators this morning. It's another advantage to having a greater diversity of plants, because there's more pollinators that can benefit from the pollen and the nectar that these particular plants produce. I'd also like to highlight that we have a great partnership with the Evergreen Dahlia Society. They've been coming to the Sunken Garden for several years to plant these beautiful dahlias. They're just starting to bloom this week in the Sunken Garden. This one is, they're all stunning, but this one's particularly stunning. It looks like a sunset color to me, and very large colors here on this particular dahlia. And there's members of the Dahlia Society that are here to answer questions if you have a particular interest in dahlias or questions about those plants. These lemon cypress are very dramatic. It's something that we've added to the garden to provide some vertical interest and to kind of frame the different corners of the garden. Very classic European style. And I should say this whole Sunken Garden is based on European principles of design, where it's typically surrounded by low hedges, and then it's kind of a mystery or a surprise when you walk through the hedges. You come into this terrific garden with a variety of colors and textures. It's kind of like an aha or a really nice surprise when you come into the Sunken Garden. These perennial geraniums have been blooming all summer long, so if you're looking for a ground cover that doesn't need a lot of attention, this is just one example of a perennial that can provide a lot of color in your garden throughout the summer. And I don't know if you can see, but here's some bees that are very much enjoying the nectar and the pollen that these particular geraniums are providing this morning. Here's a member of the Dahlia Society. They're here to answer questions, as I mentioned. Thank you, John, for being an educational resource this morning. And Kaylee Moulton is one of 15 grounds members. Every single grounds member on the Capitol campus helped with this renovation project. So Kaylee's going to be here this morning, as well as some other people, to help guide you through the garden and answer questions about this great variety of plants. And you can see the formality of the garden. The Olmsteds wanted to have a really formal axis. This axis that goes through the middle of the garden lines up with the World War I memorial and also the insurance building. So this is one part of a campus that's quite formal based on that Olmsted vision. The other thing that's brand new, you never want to give up on a historic design. So 90 years later, we were able to put in the original pathway layout that the Olmsted brothers had envisioned for this garden. And there again, that was really all instigated by the ADA Access Project. So not only can people get to the beginning of the garden, but now everybody in the community can circulate equally and enjoy this great variety of plants. purposely put this nice area of turf grass right in the middle of the garden. We do have many events that happen in the garden. We have weddings and celebrations and retirements. So we can't accommodate hundreds of people, but here's just an example of how the garden was designed to honor the historical intent, but it also provides a chance for people to enjoy this garden with events. So if you're interested in events in the Sunken Garden, you can look at our DES webpage and look for Capital Services. Our Capital Visitor Services is where you'll find information for reserving this space for events. Another thing that's kind of new, back in the Olmsted days, they didn't really have a lot of genetically dwarfed plants, but we have a lot of variety now. So here's an example of a Dwarf Gallardia or blanket flower. Normally these would get like 2 or 3 feet tall, and you'd have to stake them to keep them from flopping. But it's really nice now that we have these genetically dwarfed plants that provide all the color and the interest, but they're just easier to maintain because they stay nice and short and don't have to be staked. Just like to point out this concrete. These are original Olmsted features. These very easy to navigate steps, and the concrete pillars are all created with a special recipe that the Olmsteds provided. And so every time we have to repair concrete or add concrete to the historic district, we follow that very same Olmsted recipe so that all the concrete matches. And then we were looking at historic photos as we prepared this garden. We found that they used to have these giant color bowls on each of these pillars. So we're starting to envision how we might be able to restore that particular segment of the historic garden going forward. There again, it's kind of a nice welcome and a nice surprise as you enter these 4 entrances. So I'd just like to finish by saying that this garden is one of 3 sunken gardens that the Olmsteds originally designed. Unfortunately, right after the landscape in the Capitol campus started, the Great Depression came in the 1930s. And probably at least 50% of the landscape wasn't installed because of the Great Depression. But we keep chipping away. We keep having some different funding sources that come over the years, and we keep adding and evolving and creating more of the Olmsted vision on the Capitol campus. And if you can just look at this view of the Sunken Garden as the foreground, and then the beautiful framing of the Capitol Dome from the Legislative Building is just part of that master vision that the Olmsteds became quite famous for in all of their designs throughout the country and throughout the world. So once again, I invite you to the historic Sunken Garden this morning from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. We have some refreshments, and we have people here to answer questions, and the sun is starting to peek out behind the nice white fluffy clouds, and it's just going to be a beautiful day to explore this next evolution of the Sunken Garden.